is Prince, and today we're looking at Prince's greatest B-sides. There's a track today which I've chosen called Another Lonely Christmas. Now this is Prince's only Christmas song that he's ever written, but because this is Prince couldn't just do the normal thing of kind of doing the average Christmas song. He had to do something very different. He had to create something which is pretty unusual actually in the Prince discography. This song was the B-side to Purple Rain's I Would Die For You, and it's also recorded in 1984, a day before Pop Life, so it's clearly a fantastic time in the Prince world. The interesting thing about this track is it's only ever been performed once, and it was performed on December the 26th, 1984, and interestingly in the song he talks about last night being Christmas, so the only time it's ever performed was on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas. It's what we call Boxing Day in the UK. I don't know why we call it that, but we do. Anyway, lyrically, this is pretty dark. This is this is something that kind of Prince sometimes does with his great songs. One of the examples is Pop Life, where he has dark kind of lyrics, but a kind of upbeat, jaunty melody. So it's kind of very upbeat melody, but it's very kind of dark, gritty, and kind of sometimes tragic lyrics. It's quite interesting. Like I say, Pop Life, he does that when he references drugs and he talks about lots of other social ills, but kind of has this really kind of upbeat kind of musical score, which is an interesting composition. This is the story of Prince kind of lamenting his lost love, but this time instead of kind of running off with someone else, she's tragically died, although you don't realise that at first. He starts off by talking about the great times they've had together. He talks about, you remember that time we swam naked in your father's pool? Boy, he was upset that night, but boy, was that ever cool. He even mentions the game Pocono, which seems to be kind of an interesting hybrid of poker, lotto and bingo. It's kind of an interesting game. And he talks about how you used to scream so loud because you hated that number 9. And it's kind of interesting. It's only several verses into the actual song that you realise that what has happened. When he talks about your father said it was pneumonia, your mother said it was stress, but the doctor says you were dead, and I stayed senseless. And it's kind of interesting that he talks about how he's reacted to this death. About every Christmas night for 7 years now, I drink banana daiquiris till I'm blind. If I can hear your smiling face, baby, you won't hear my tears. Another lonely Christmas is mine, yeah, mine. Another lonely Christmas is mine. He goes off into this. It's really fantastic the way it builds. This is Prince again, pulling all the strings, doing everything. This is Prince kind of doing something quite different. I mean, it starts off musically, no intro. Prince's bang is right in there, straight with the lyrics, and the way it works. It's kind of this really natural drum beat. This is clearly Prince playing the drums, and it's very natural. It's not a Linn drum. It's not an electronic sounding drum. This is a purely kind of live feel to this, and you've got this kind of limbering, snaking guitar which kind of noodles around, but then whenever there's a chorus it kind of builds up, and the whole song builds up for choruses and then drops back down. And I think it's fantastic when he does it with guitar. It's just kind of in the background, working along, and then suddenly it just builds up. He also has a few kind of piano touches which increase as the song goes on, which really quite impressive. It's also, I think, the way Prince does this is he kind of creates his atmosphere, and it's a bit eerie, it's a bit spooky. It reminds me a little bit of Power Fantastic in the sense of it's a bit of an eerie atmosphere. There's lots of space when it drops back down, and it's quite different to the normal Prince fare. Vocally, Prince is giving this kind of great balance between some lyrics which are almost spoken, kind of, just sort of genuinely in his normal voice, building up to this kind of baritone kind of lamenting these kind of great, baritone screams, and he's really pushing his voice in this song up to the limit. And there's a part of 357 where there's these fantastic drum rolls, and then Prince screams, and that is just a real highlight of this track. It really is. Just after that as well, there's these piano rolls where he kind of go up and down the keys, kind of, really letting it all fly through. But it's a really interesting song. It's a very unique song in that there's very few Prince songs like it. It's really interesting where he was at that time, and interesting that this song had such a kind of short shelf life and hasn't been performed again. And also there may be religious reasons for that, possibly, but also it's really not a particularly religious song. It just happens to be at Christmas. It just happens to be when this tragedy has happened. But it's an interesting take on Prince's kind of like long kind of his lost love, but this time tragically she's died. So really interesting track. Let me know what you think.